What up, and welcome to Dub Nation, the official show of the Utah Warriors of Major League Rugby. I'm Jarom Jordan alongside Banksy. May the 4th be with you.
And with you. That was a little blasphemous. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You know what? It's all good. I love Star Wars. I was explaining to my daughter today sort of the timeline of Star Wars and like when everything came out and where it fits. And she's like, "You're just giving me a timeline." I was like, "Oh, I am, I guess. Sorry. My bad."
Here's the deal, guys. It starts with episode 4.
Right.
And then the wheels fall off after that.
Yeah. 5 was the best. 6 is pretty good. Yeah, anyway. May the 4th be with all of you who celebrate this or literally organized religion.
It is now officially.
Jedi or whatever. We are live on the Utah Warriors Facebook, Twitter, YouTube account. Subscribe to the podcast version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. You can listen to it on like 2x, so I'll speak really fast right now and see what that sounds like. You can also listen to it on 0.5. So if you're doing that now, that sounds fun too. Send in questions and comments if you have them. Here's what's on the rundown. We'll recap the loss at New England, preview week 14, recap week 13 as well around the league. Joe Mano will join us. He's back from an ACL. Scored a great try against New England. Rugby versus football part 2. Can Britton Covey kick? You'll see that. Rugby ATL coming to town Saturday. We'll preview that. And we'll talk to the aforementioned Britton Covey, who got picked up by the Eagles. Congratulations to our guy, Britton Covey. From the University of Utah. Fun conversation with him coming up. Okay, let's recap New England. Utah goes to New England. New England's won 7 in a row. Try to snap the streak. Try to pull off a big upset. Didn't happen. 33-17. Let's start at the beginning. Mitch Wilson, this is Bailey Wilson's brother, scores in the 2nd minute. Peter Janssen scores in the 22nd minute. It's 14-0 New England. It's like, shoot, down 2 scores. Let's go. 28th minute, Calvin Whiting does tack on a penalty goal, though. He's kind of the guy at kicker right now with Cliven Lobster still coming back from injury. Caleb Mockney certainly capable as well.
You know, it's been really fun to watch. Even as Calvin has not had the best season, he's such a utility knife for this team. Whether you need him at 10, whether he plays in his traditional 12 that he's been now, whether he's kicking, or whether he's just an absolute lock on defense, he's able to do whatever the team needs and showing his versatility again and really being a leader through a tough stretch in this season.
How many inside centers are the main kicker for the team, by the way, which is kind of fun as well. I like that. Okay, 34th minute, John Poland scores a try, 20-3. Still having to come from behind here, but 37th minute, off a high ball from New England, Mikey Teo does what Mikey Teo does. Great line break, finds Caleb Mockney, who finishes it to score right before the half.
The ball takes a great bounce, and Mikey just never stops following the ball. And then Mockney on his outside. Look at that. 3 men chasing him. Takes the smart angle, and he's able to make the difficult try under duress.
Close to a knock-on. They reviewed it. There was no knock-on the catch there from the kick. But more Mikey Teo in space. I'm telling you, when Teo has the ball in his hand more often, I almost feel like in basketball, you're like, okay, or football, you say, this running back is so versatile. We need to get him touches out of the backfield and as a receiver. Mikey Teo needs touches. Like Mickey Cruz needs touches. I don't know, what needs to happen here, but when the ball finds those guys, Utah scores, it feels like.
Good things happen and good things continue to happen for this team. I mean, we'll see it here in just a little bit. The really encouraging sign I saw from this team was that they didn't just stick to the regular X's and O's and the basic strategy that we've seen from some of the earlier struggles. We saw a lot more creativity. We saw a lot more support on the ball. You know, the little kick from Cliven that we're about to look at here for Joe Mano's score was just field vision and experience and time playing together. And these guys are starting to fire on some extra cylinders and really start to have a bit more fun playing rugby again, which they've struggled with through the middle part of the season. So, there's a lot of encouraging signs from this Warriors offense.
Okay, into the second half we go, 47th minute. New England has a maul that goes into the try zone. Peter Janssen gets his second try. They almost ran out of the back. I'd never actually seen that, where a maul was so dominant. They almost went out of the back. Unfortunately, that's what happened, 26-10. Then the play of the game for the Utah Warriors. This was amazing. Cliven Lobster, the Namibian international, played in the World Cup. Great kick, the chip forward, and look at Joe Mano back from an ACL in a second game. 10 months later, dots it down.
Just the speed on the outside and then the vision from Cliven. They knew that call was on before that ball even came out of the ruck. You could tell by Cliven's body language. He just knew the space was there, and all he had to do was get it over the covering fullback, and Mano was going to score. And Joe picking up right where he left off before he blew out the knee and just scoring tries for the Warriors.
Great play. One of the plays of the year for the Utah Warriors. We will talk to Joe coming up. So Utah was playing up a man at that point, down 9 with 9 minutes to go. Again, it was like that tempting, like, are we going to do this again? Like, New England? What? Unfortunately, 3 minutes later, New England scores again. Final score 33-17. So, a couple of game notes on this one. New England sets the Major League Rugby record with 8 straight wins, surpassing Glendale and Toronto. 6-game losing streak now for the Warriors, longest since 2019. And 17 points scored, 8th fewest in team history. Trying to get 30-plus a game to give themselves a better shot here. And then tied 4th largest margin of loss. The reason I bring this up is Utah does not get kind of blown out like this. Looking at all the matches, all but 5 games in Utah history have been within 2 scores. To me, if you're 3-score plus loss, that's the margin, that's a blowout. So rarely does Utah get blown out. And that's to Utah's credit, is that they compete well. Even this season at 2-9, this team is still competing well.
Well, even up into the 70th minute, Mano goes in for that score, and you think, all right, there's a glimmer of hope and a chance here for these Warriors again. But that's been the frustrating part of the way this team has closed out games all year, is they are so close, and yet seemingly the gap is so wide between our performance in the red and black and where the teams are at the top of the league.
Okay, man of the match, as voted by you on Dot Vote, Bailey Wilson. 10 lineouts won, 16 tackles, 68 meters gained. Of course, he had to show up against his brother Mitch, right?
It was great from Cap to show up. He continues to do it and lead with his actions on the field. And, the guys continue to respond. They play hard for each other. And a lot of that is on the physical leadership as well as the emotional leadership of Bailey Wilson. So well-deserved for Cap in that match.
Stats in this one: New England scored 5 tries, Utah 2. Penalty goals, Utah made 1, which is good. Lineouts even at 13. Scrums, Utah struggled 5 for 9 in this one. New England dominated. Certainly the Free Jacks, one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. You feel like and we'll get into the standings later, but New England's right there as one of the best teams in the league right now, number 1 team in the East.
I mean, you talk about facing New England and now Rugby ATL in back-to-back weeks. That's the top shelf elite measuring stick in the Eastern Conference. And the East have shown that they have risen to the standard that the West has set through the first 4 seasons of MLR. And so the parity across the competition is pretty incredible this year. And it's really fun rugby to watch if you're a rugby fan.
Okay, well, the Collegiate Rugby Shield is coming to Utah. This is exciting. Don't miss out on this great opportunity to see the next stars of Major League Rugby as they prepare to be drafted. Check out collegiaterugbyshield.com and Collegiate Rugby Shield social media for more information. July 2nd. Awesome.
Going to be a great day of rugby here in the epicenter of rugby in North America. It all roads travel through the West. The Intercontinental Railroad connected here in Utah, and now the road to the MLR does as well with that Collegiate Rugby Shield. And we've seen so many guys make an impact for this Utah Warriors team that have come through that draft, and so many great talents continue to develop through that system for other teams as well. So it'll be an exciting day.
Yeah, we'll get the golden spike out from Promontory Point. I think we'll just take it out. We'll bring it over to the...
Just borrow it for a minute.
Just borrow it. It's all
fine.
Good. Well, it's not stealing. We borrowed it. We're going to bring it back. Okay, here's some scores from Week 13 around the league. Perhaps the biggest game was LA defeating Atlanta 31-19. Atlanta, of course, Utah's opponent coming up Saturday. But LA's really turned it on, man. Like, Austin's got the most points in the West. We'll look at that in a minute. But LA is hot.
LA playing to form, and they continue to shuffle around that backline lineup now with some suspensions and injuries, but they're getting a few guys back now who are really filling in the ranks, and they're playing a fun brand of rugby right now.
Uncle Hermesheis, one of those people you're mentioning, suspended 3 games for throwing an elbow. His next game back will be against Utah, actually. Okay, San Diego taking it to Dallas. New York, 2-score win over NOLA, and Austin beating Seattle 17-6. Any thoughts on some of those other games?
I think that Austin match was a big grind for them and a big physical win. Seattle, obviously, we saw has so much size and versatility on that team. So for Austin to get that win at this point in the season to stay ahead of Seattle in the playoff race is massive, and to win it in a very gritty, physical way. That was really a statement, I think, for the West.
Okay, standings in the West as we get to kind of crunch time here, right? We've got 5-6 weeks left in the season. Austin out in front with the game in hand over LA, +9. San Diego in that third spot. LA, of course, second. Seattle right there. Houston right there. It's going to be an interesting 5-team race for those 3 spots in the West.
I mean, it's absolutely a drag race, and it's anybody's game at this point, with everybody really chasing Austin. I think barring some major slip up from that team, they're clearly going to end up with that 1 seed, but there's 2 spots to fight for and 4 other teams that are in the real hunt for that, with only 7 points separating second from being out of the playoffs. Yeah,
Austin's a week or 2 from clinching a playoff berth. It would seem. So that'll be interesting. Okay, looking at the East, New England with 47 points. ATL coming in real strong as well with 40. New York right there. There's a bit more separation in the East than the West.
A bit more separation, and it's the teams that we thought would be there at the beginning of the season. Rugby New Jersey, the Rattlers coming to town this week. We know they always are going to be tough playing in the East. The Free Jacks have made their stamp on the Eastern Conference and then stayed there all season long. So really, it's everybody chasing New England in the East right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Rugby ATL doesn't have bad losses. Like, if they lose, it's the good teams. So they're really, really good. And New York's really good. And Toronto feels like they're really good. Yeah, down here for NOLA, DC is at the bottom. Okay, let's check out Week 14's schedule coming up this week. The battle for the heart of America. I have no idea what the Patriots Cup, New England and DC. They need a fun name there. It's got to be better than the whatever Austin and LA is again. The Gilly Cup. Yeah, the Gilly Cup, which is coming up. That's a huge game, obviously, LA and Austin for, who's really the best team in the West. We're going to find out who Adam Gilchrist loves the most. Toronto and Rugby New Jersey, as you call them. San Diego and Houston's intriguing for kind of that third spot. And then Seattle's hoping to gain some ground on Dallas.
I mean, Seattle picking up a tough game against Dallas, who are scrappy. They've shown they're good all year long. And with everything that's happened to that team, you almost feel like karma's due to give them a win. It would be bad timing for that to be against the Seattle Seawolves if you're a Seattle fan, as they still try and fight for that spot in the playoffs. San Diego could really kind of stamp their authority on that third spot with a big win over Houston, though.
Yeah, huge week. Every week big with, 5 or 6 games left, depending on how many you've played in MLR so far in round 14. So, yeah, we have 5 weeks left in the regular season. We go through round 18, 16 games for everybody, 2 buys. Okay, 5 days left until the MLR trade deadline. So I wanted to ask you, do you anticipate the Warriors making any moves, perhaps as a seller? We see this a lot in baseball where teams knows they're out of the playoffs, but they get rid of some assets, prepare for the future. Do you anticipate Utah doing anything here?
I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, because there's a lot of value to be had with some of these players. But I think if I'm the front office, I'm trying to keep the assets that I've got right now, knowing that I'm only a few key pieces away from being back to being a contender again now in 2023. So it's not like there are major problems with the staff on hand. I think when we get through the coaching search and we add a couple of these missing pieces, both in the forward and back line, really, if I'm Brandon Sparks in this front office, I'm trying to keep the nucleus and all of the talent I can as close to home as possible. So I wouldn't be looking to sell, but money talks. And if somebody comes and makes you an offer you can't refuse, don't be surprised if the Warriors make a deal.
Yeah, and we'll see, which guys on expiring contracts perhaps are in motion. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on the trade deadline coming up here in 5 days.
The Utah Warriors are back again this weekend at home with the best home field advantage in Major League Rugby. Absolute scenes in the red and black. Make sure you're there as the Utah Warriors take on Rugby ATL at Zions Bank Stadium. It's an 8 p.m. kick, so make sure you're bundled up on what could be a cool spring night, or, we could be in short sleeves. Who knows? Call 801-477-7652 or go to warriorsrugby.com and get your tickets as the Warriors take on Rugby ATL this weekend.
I'm looking at Saturday's weather. Should be in the high 60s. So that should be great weather.
That's hoodie weather. That's perfect.
That's nice. I can attest that ball that Sayo Hila was squeezing, it did in fact deflate and perished. So that happened. Yeah.
May it rest in peace.
Yeah, may it rest in peace. Our first guest of the day is a conversation with Joe Mano, who scored a tremendous try, as we just talked about, against New England, coming off an ACL. Here's a conversation with Joe from earlier. We now welcome to the program Joe Mano of the Utah Warriors. Joe, thanks for joining us on Dub Nation, man.
Hey, what's up, Jordan? Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, last week you played in your second game of the season. You scored your first try. It was a spectacular one from Cleveland Lobster, which we'll talk about in a minute. But what was it like to get back out on the pitch a couple weeks ago after 10 months away following an ACL injury?
It feels great. It took me 10 months to recover, and I missed 9 games. So at that point, whenever I get an opportunity to be on that field, I have that mindset that I have to do something or make something happen to help the boys out.
While coming back from an ACL is getting shorter and shorter, it's still extremely difficult. Apparently, tell us kind of what you went through to get back into shape here.
I was doing rehabs, with physical therapists, and I was working with our physios and our trainers, and especially the coaches and our teammates, and they were motivating me to keep pushing and keep working hard to get back and get this knee right.
What kept you motivated? Because a lot of people talk about in that process there being a lot of dark days.
I have a son now, so it's something that motivates me to keep playing and get back to do what I love to do.
That's awesome, man. That's great. What's your son's name? How old is he?
Joey. He's 7 months now. And
congratulations. So during these 10 months, you had a kid.
Yes. When I got injured back in May of 2021, my lady was pregnant. Was 5 months pregnant with my son. So it was tough, trying to figure out what to do, and because I was getting money from insurance, but we didn't have that much money. So good thing our families are here to help us out, and that's what they did for the last 10 months.
Hey, that's what families are for, man.
Yeah.
and that you had this new motivation, right?
Yes.
Would it have been harder without Joey coming back from the ACL?
I think it would have been harder. Yeah, I'm glad that he's here, so to motivate me to do what I love to do.
That's awesome, man. Hey, so you tore your ACL against DC. What do you remember from that moment? And do you think about that moment, or do you put it out of your mind?
I consider it once in a while. That was, like I said, that was my first injury since I played rugby. So I can never forget that day. So, yeah.
And then this is a moment for you that, 10 months leading up to this, we see you against Seattle come in, which was super cool. Made a couple of good plays, which was great off the bench. And then last week against New England, you come in and you make one of the tries of the year for the Utah Warriors. Describe to us what happened on that play with Cleveland Lobster.
We knew that they were down a player, so because their winger got yellow carded, and we knew that there was gonna be a space on the edge. So and I knew that Cleveland had the boot to put that ball in that space to for me to score that try.
Joe, you almost ran out of the back of the try zone, which was funny. You're so quick, right? But you had to use your good footwork to dot it down, right?
Yeah, I was sprinting, just to get that bounce from that cross kick from Cliff, and I had to slow down. I was looking for ways to, stop me from getting out of bounds. So I had to tiptoe to dot that ball down. So, yeah. I
wish every field had like 10 meters in the try zone. I don't know why we have to have these 5 meter ones. It's like tradition, but you don't have to. Why?
Yeah.
You could kick it way further in there. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Being up close, just boom, just send it up high. That'd be fun, right?
Yeah, we need more, try zone like the Sabergas field and.
Yes, exactly. Houston. like the CFL in football. They have these really long
Yes.
end zones or whatever, right? Yeah. Okay, let's talk about your journey. So I see hometown is American Samoa. I see that you've lived in Alaska. Kind of where are you from and where have you gone, man?
Yeah, I'm originally from American Samoa. I was born in Hawaii, but I was raised back in American Samoa. Uh, After I graduated high school, I just moved to Alaska to stay with my brother. He was in the army. He was stationed out there, so he wanted me to come out there and work at a warehouse and play some local rugby. And transition from American Samoa to Alaska was smooth, and I think it was great to. I think it was great that I moved to Alaska and then down here to Utah.
Hold up. How is moving from American Samoa to Alaska smooth, bro?
It was what? What I mean by smooth, we have families out there. The people that I lived with in American Samoa when I was young, they were in Alaska as well. So
that's awesome.
So I think it was smooth to have families out there. And
I was thinking weather. Weather.
Oh.
I was like, American Samoa weather, Alaska weather, that's different, man.
It's very different. It's hot in American Samoa and then it's cold in Alaska. Well, that's one of the things that was hard, but everything was smooth.
We're talking to Joe Mano on Dub Nation. How's Alaskan rugby?
Oh, there are a lot of talented players out there. But I think they only play in summer, just 2 months to play rugby.
Right. 2 months only. Wow.
Yeah. It's either 7s or 15s and 10s. But I don't know if you guys have heard of the that field in Alaska, the Alaska Rugby Mountain Grounds.
Mm.
That's like I wish I had a picture with me. So it's a great field. I think the USA women's team were up there when I was in Alaska. So it was, it's great out there. Rugby in Alaska is great, but the physicality will be there because there are a lot of polys out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, then you end up playing for the American Samoa national team, 7s, and you play with James Byfala, right? That's your boy?
Yeah, man. Yes, I did. That was the first time I met James, and I've learned a lot from him, and he was one of the players that I was looking up to. But funny thing was at that tournament we were talking about trying out for the Utah Warriors in 2019, but then here we are playing alongside each other.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool, man. Okay, obviously the team is 2-9 right now and still fighting to finish the season with some momentum and on a high. How do you keep training motivated and good? Because I talked to Sean Davis a couple weeks ago and he said we had one of the best practices of the season. How are you guys trying to keep that going despite having a tough season so far?
It's all about getting better every day, and it's about working hard for each other. So I think we need to do that almost every day or every week. So
okay, big game with Rugby ATL. They're always a very physical team. What are some key factors in this matchup in your opinion?
Just stick to the game plan and double efforts for your teammates, and just to win some games.
We got to see a Joe Mano try at home, right?
Yes, for sure. I'll try.
Joe, we appreciate the time, man. Congratulations on the journey back. I know it's been really hard. Congratulations on your new kid, Joey, and we'll see you at Zions Bank Stadium this Saturday.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan.
Joe Mano, our guest on Dub Nation, and good to have Joe back in the squad. He's a real contributor whenever he's on the field. His footwork's incredible, too. You saw it in the back of the try zone to make sure he didn't run out.
You know, he's one of those kids that you absolutely root for. Such a humble, quiet kid, like so many of the Polynesian young men that come up. You know, there is such a level of humility and respect that's built into the culture that pairs so well with the game of rugby, and he fits so athletically, flawlessly into this lineup with the other playmakers that we have. So a healthy Joe Mano is bad news for the rest of the league. It's really good to see him back out on the rugby pitch.
Got a Facebook comment during the interview from Kiji Melda Salatogi. He is built for the game. He is. He's like the ideal winger, man.
He's the kind of kid that he really is that modern winger. He's big and physical when he needs to be. And, you know, at standing almost 6 foot and, you know, close to 200 pounds, you know, but he's got this electric speed that you just can't teach. You know, you can have a player put on weight. You know, you can have a player learn ball and ball skills within the hands and at the feet, but you can't teach speed. And Joe Mano's got that.
100%. Okay, speaking of, it's time for part 2 of Rugby versus Football, featuring some of our name, image, and likeness local college football stars. Today we explore kicking. Let's throw it over to Britt and Covey.
It's called the coffin corner kick or the sky punt. Hey, you look like a long snapper.
I did in high school. I hated it.
Come back for sure.
Bang. I was gonna say that's.
Oh my god. Wait, let's go for it. Go backwards.
And it has to bounce in, but over the next 22-meter line,
black thing?
and then out.
So it has to bounce inbound.
It's got to bounce inbound and then out.
Inbounds, out of bounds. No, we're in the right position. Yeah, I'd say more left. Let's see.
Go left.
That's in. Nice. Great one. And there we go.
Got one.
Give me a contract. I'm ready.
That's what we're teaching here.
Oh, frick.
Hey, Jaron Hall with the 50-22, the BYU quarterback. Not bad. Who did punt, I learned, when he was younger.
Well, had the technique, got the ball going end over end with a bit of momentum. It was great. I see a lot of really questionable hamstrings from some of those big boys trying to put in the high ball as well. Careful, lads. I've been there. That hamstring's not as loose as you think it is out there having fun.
That's awesome. Continue to check out fun features like that on the Utah Warriors social media. They're always putting them out, which is great. All right, let's preview the game with Rugby ATL. The Rattlers coming up Saturday, 8 Mountain Time. Will we see Niall Saunders return? He did travel to Rugby ATL, wasn't on the 23. But by the way, I did want to mention Franco Vandenberg hit his head pretty hard. I'm guessing he's out gonna be out this week, but our best wishes to Franco as he recovers from that. Did leave the game with what looked like a head injury, right? But Utah and ATL coming up Saturday night. KMYU, KSLSports.com, the Rugby Network, ESPN 796. We've got the call on this one. Rugby ATL second in the East with 40 points. They lost LA last week, as we talked about. Utah's 0-2 all time versus the Rattlers, and this is a big game. And Lance Williams talked about it, and others saying, "Hey, we've got to ruin other people's opportunities here. We've got to upset them, and let's make it hard for them to go where they want to go. Let's win at home. Let's defend our home turf."
There's a big chance to do that against a team that needs a win to stay in the thick of that playoff race. Rugby ATL still sitting at second in the Eastern Conference, so they're very much part of that conversation like you knew they were going to be. This Rugby ATL team plays with a lot of flair when the space opens up for them, and they're a very structured and disciplined team at all the other set pieces and phases of the game. So this is not going to be an easy one for the Warriors, but the Warriors are in a really dangerous place right now because they're playing really great rugby through really long passages of play now, whether that's on offense or defense. So if you sleep on this Utah Warriors team, even for a minute, they have all the skill and potential to really bite you hard. And, Rattlers aren't the only ones with fangs.
Hey, I like that. I was going to say that's a pun. Okay, a couple things that ATL does well. Dominant tackles, first in the league. They tackle you and tackle you hard. Second in mauls, fourth in tries, third in meters gained. So they're not like spectacular in a ton of things, but they're super solid and very physical.
And they're really well coached. They're really well disciplined. This is a team that spends a lot of time together. And in Atlanta, Georgia, you can play rugby all year long. These guys know each other really well. They've played together for a really long time. The core of this team, much like the Utah Warriors, is still intact and has been for several years now, even with some, coaching changes there early in this season. Let's not forget that, they lost a head coach right at the start of their season as well. So to continue that form has been a credit to what the players on the field are doing for Rugby ATL. I'm still back in black with the Utah Warriors this week, though.
Yeah, Scott Lawrence let go. That was a bit of a surprise right after they went to the MLR final. Steve Brett is the head coach. So, yeah, keep an eye on those guys. Marco Jans van Rensburg. It's fun for the play-by-play. Your boys got that. Tied for first with 8 tries. Will Leonard, third in MLR in carries. And Justin Basson, 19 of those 42 dominant tackles.
Love seeing Van Rensburg in there, the big boy leading the league in the tries. You got to love that as a forward player, seeing, some of these bigger bodies running around all over the field. So there's a lot of speed. There's a lot of danger. There's a lot of real clinical rugby in this Rugby ATL lineup. But like I said, don't count out a team that has absolutely nothing to lose. The Warriors' backs are against the wall, and the only thing they have to motivate them right now is playing spoiler. And who better than Rugby ATL to, make a cry at their own party?
Listen, Utah's beating LA. If you can beat LA on the road, you can beat anybody. So
you can beat LA on the road. You can hang 69 on Dallas, in those 2 key wins really for the Warriors this season. But, I've said it before, we're talking 5 losses by less than a converted try for this team. That's how close it's been. The difference between victory and loss is razor thin. I mean, a literal game of inches when you talk about how many times the Warriors have been inside the 5-meter line to score tries this year. So
I don't want to talk about it.
No, we do need to talk about it because that's how close it can be for this Warriors team. Don't be frustrated.
I know. Every week we talk about margin. I hate it.
Put your big boy pants on. Get behind your Warriors, Jarom Jordan, and realize that in Zions Bank Stadium this weekend, 8 p.m. kickoff, when the red and black and the 4 stripes take the field and Dub Nation gets loud behind them, we're going to cram it down somebody's throat. And I'm stoked for it, baby. Let's go, Dub Nation.
I wish you were excited for once about the matchup. But, yeah, that's coming up 8 Mountain Saturday night. And before that, you can come hang out a little earlier with a little something special with the Junior Warriors. Let's go.
These Junior Warriors clinics are unbelievable. Ashley Burge does such a fantastic job making this so much fun for these kids, as well as learning the basics of the game. The rugby players for this Warriors team really get involved and throw the ball around. It's such an amazing experience to get your kids involved for the first time, or just let them get out and have a great experience with some of their favorite players. It's for ages 5 to 14, and it's only $30. It includes that 1-hour clinic, the t-shirt, parking, 2 tickets to the corresponding home match, which would be this weekend against Rugby ATL. So go to junior.warriorsrugby.com and get more. That's junior.warriorsrugby.com.
Okay, our final guest of the day is University of Utah receiver that a lot of you know, Britton Covey. Fantastic guy. Got picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles this week. Here's my conversation with Britton from earlier. We now welcome in our next guest, Britton Covey, now of the Philadelphia Eagles, who just signed a free agent deal with the Fly Eagles Fly. Congratulations, Britton. That's awesome, man.
Thank you. Yes, it's I'm just happy that it's over and that I can, buy some swag from an NFL team rather than have to wait for, another month to see where I'm going to end up. It's just, it's been a long few months just waiting, training, and so I'm happy to finally be somewhere. So
what was that process like of not knowing where you were going? Maybe you get drafted, maybe you don't. And then when the draft ends, sort of the cards are in your favor and you have all the leverage at this point to kind of pick a couple teams perhaps.
Yeah, well, it was chaotic. It was every free agent kind of has a different experience, right? Some where you're having to go out and actively pursue teams, others right after the 7th round. For me, the Eagles called me at the end of the 5th round, and they called my agent, and because they only had 5 picks, and it was just chaos from there. They gave me a timetable and said you have to basically decide by this point in the 6th round, otherwise we're going to move off. Anyways, so I had to make my decision early in the 6th round, basically, and before I got to hear all the other offers from different teams, and still assuming I wasn't going to get drafted, right? So it was just a fun experience because no one in my family had any idea what to do. And just, most of the time you've got guys you can ask for advice in the moment, but no one had ever done it in my family. So it was pretty fun.
Did you lean on the agent at that point? Because I've talked to a lot of guys over the years where it's like, all right, the key, for a free agency situation is like, who is competing for that spot? Also the money,
Right.
of course, but it's like, you want to make the team. That's the point.
Right. Yeah. To me, the money, I didn't care about the money as much because it's all about fit, right? And it's all about kind of where you line up in the depth chart, how the coaches see you. And so money is a representation sometimes of how much they want you, but it's not everything. And so it was interesting though. I did lean on my agent. So when I talked to all the Philadelphia coaches, offensive coordinator, receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, all that, head coach, I just realized that I really wanted to be there. And that was early in the 6th round. And so I basically told my agent, I said, any team that calls you that's wondering if they need to draft me, tell them that I'm going to be a free agent so that they don't feel the need to draft me because I want to go to Philadelphia. Because Philadelphia didn't have any more picks, but there were still 5 or 6 teams in the mix that were possibly going to draft me in the 7th round if they didn't feel like I'd be available in free agency. And so I told my agent, I said, just tell them all that I'll be available so they don't feel the need to draft me because I want to go to Philadelphia. So
That's awesome.
it's hard though, but
Yeah, and what a life-changing moment for you. Like, how old were you when you were like, hey, I want to play in the NFL?
oh gosh, 5, but that's kind of like the dream, when you're growing up as a kid and you say, I want to be a doctor, like your parents are way encouraging. If you say I want to be in the NFL, the parents are like, okay, let's be a little realistic, son. You know what I mean? So I don't think I ever thought of it as a realistic dream until my freshman year of college.
And then you have this tremendous season before your mission, and it's like, hey, I can actually play at this level, Which
Right.
You knew, but you were proving a lot of people wrong because you were quarterback in high school. And it was like,
Right.
well, you're not going to be a quarterback in the next level. But like your speed and quickness and agility and durability and reliability and all that was tremendous. So you remind me in a lot of ways of Vai Sikahema, where you could totally be a receiver, right? But there's a place for specialists in the return game. How do you see yourself? And I say Sikahema on purpose because Philadelphia Eagles,
Right.
of a guy who made a living off of the return game.
Yeah, well, I love Vi. He's such a good person, and he texted me yesterday.
Nice.
Or when I got picked up, he's just such an amazing person, and I think that it's understanding that, especially punt returns in the NFL is such a game-changing play. If you think about it, no play averages more yards than punt return because, yeah, technically you're giving the ball back to the defense, but you're flipping the field, right? You're averaging 45 yards per play. And I think there used to be this mentality of you kind of just put, at least in college and high school, you put your second team guys out on special teams, right? That's kind of the chance they get to play. And then lately it's just been realizing that those are such game-changing plays that average more yards than any other play. You got to have your best guys out there. They're the guys that are best at doing those particular things. And so I've kind of carved out a little bit of a role in that throughout my career and understanding how important it is in the scheme of the game and, how specialized it is. It's, it's always funny to me to see someone go out and try and catch punts that's never done it before, or someone run a kickoff back that's never done it before. It's so much different than they expect. I had a couple of my teammates try and catch punts on pro day. And I told them, I was like, if you've never done this, like I wouldn't go back and try. It's going to be more difficult than you think. And sure enough, it ball swirling up in the air, the wind, it's, so catching a punt is like catching a knuckleball. It's just all over the place.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I'm excited for you, man. Vi or Elder Sikahema, depending on what group you come from, he said that at BYU, he was so mad that he didn't get the running back reps that he wanted, that he decided he was going to field every punt and never fair catch. So he was like in open rebellion. And then he said, but if I didn't do that, I would have never played in the NFL. He's like, I wasn't a good enough running back. So there's a place for everybody that has an extreme skill in a space. And I think you do. So I'm so excited for you.
Thanks, Jarom.
I'll be watching Eagles games For you to catch those. And of course, the reason we have you on the program is one, we're a fan of you, but two, you signed a name, image, likeness deal with the Utah Warriors. In fact, you joined me at halftime and into the second half, and you did a pretty good job. 2 games ago against Seattle, I think we needed you on longer. They scored a try while you were on.
I know. Well, I think part of why I did a good job is because you didn't ask me to do play-by-play. I was just more of like the reactionary commentary. So, but that was a blast. Yeah, I'm hoping to get out to another game, and I just love them. I'm bringing my little brother who plays rugby out. So I just think that anytime you can build up a sport like that, whether that's Real Salt Lake or the Warriors, there's such great activities for fans. And Utah is this sports obsessed little hub that a lot of people who don't know about it, once they go, they realize how fun it is.
Why the connection with a rugby team like the Utah Warriors for you? Why did that make sense for your brand?
Well, part of my brand is always trying to build up other athletes. I think one thing that I've done with name, image, and likeness has been I've tried to get a lot of my teammates deals where they're working with charities, right? Nick Ford with his kitchen, and like all these different athletes that are working with things that they actually care about rather than just some random deal. And so for me, part of that is just building up athletes and getting them exposure and, kind of promoting what they do. And so that's why for me, it was kind of a natural thing just to try and do that. And a lot of my teammates up at the U have played rugby, and so it's been fun for me to learn about the sport, and I just want to promote it.
You mentioned on the broadcast too something that was really fun, which is some of the linemen and other teammates would actually get into a scrum in the locker room at Utah.
Yeah, I would send the videos, but I'm afraid I'd get in trouble for it. But we would have giant scrums in the locker room, and it would be all the 300 pounds, mostly the Polynesian guys on our team in the scrum. We didn't have any ball or anything. It was just for sheer pride. There was no, there was no purpose to it. It was just sheer pride.
That's awesome and hilarious and mildly dangerous. Like if the scrum gets
absolutely
twist or whatever.
Absolutely.
Hey, Witt's like, what's going on over there? I imagine Kyle would be a good rugby player as a former linebacker. As like a guy that still works out, I think he could hang still.
Yeah. Well, who was great was Coach Scally. Yeah.
Did he play rugby?
Yeah, he did in high school.
Oh,
he played for Highland.
He play at Highland? Oh.
Yeah, he was really good.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. And I've played with some good players, obviously Lecky Fotu and those guys. But, an underrated.
Right.
Yeah. An underrated one that people don't know about possibly that if he'd ever, gets cut in the NFL, I'm going to tell him to join the Warriors is Pita Taumoipenu.
I remember Pita.
Yeah. So when he came to Timpview, I was a sophomore. When he was a senior, hardly spoke any English, never played football in his life. And he showed up in my class, and I was like, who is this beast? He's amazing. He's just ripped. And I brought him out to play football, and we basically put him at DN and said, go get the quarterback. Like, go get the guy with the ball, because he couldn't understand anything else with football. He just played. He was a rugby player in Tonga. And anyways, now he's in the NFL and doing great. But if it ever doesn't pan out, I think he should go back to his rugby roots.
That's awesome. A couple of years ago on April Fool's, the Warriors said that Haloti Ngata signed with the Warriors.
Oh, man.
Like, yeah! No, it didn't.
Right.
Like, that guy was making too much money before. No.
Right.
He still wants to be able to walk. So,
not going to put his body through that.
Yeah. No, it's good. What have you learned about kind of rugby culture, rules, positioning so far that has intrigued you?
For me, it's been understanding because there's no, there are sets in rugby, but there's no stop and start plays, right? It's so fluid that it's been interesting for me to see, okay, where's the strategy behind, right, those quick kicks and behind when I've always found one of my favorite plays is when they're, and see, the terminology for me is still not coming. So just is when they're swinging it out, right? Yep. And then you've got a guy who comes the opposite direction and they pass it back to him. And he's, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, is that a set? Is that a play? Is that something that's just instinctive that they do? you know, I think it's really interesting to watch for me, kind of more the offensive schemes. Because I love, you know, one day I hope to be an offensive coordinator in football, but it's so stop and start, play, analytics based, whereas rugby's so fluid. And I almost wonder if it's more instinctive or if they are sets that are called or if you see tendencies in the defense. And so that for me, that's really cool to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you would have been an amazing scrum half. Told you this to halftime. You could have been an incredible winger as well. I think there would have been you in space. A fullback would have been incredible. Basically the safety, you know,
right
back there. You could kick. Can you kick? How's the kicking game?
I was our punter in high school, if that answers your question.
I didn't know you were the punter in high school. Yeah, that's awesome, baby. That's amazing. Were you right-footed, left-footed?
Right-footed, straight rugby style punts.
Okay. You've already been rugby style punting. There we go.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I'm not. Don't look up a highlight film because there is none. But
Britton Covey, huddle, punting.
Punt. Right.
Nothing. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. When do you, what's the timeline this week with Philadelphia or whenever you get there?
Fly out tomorrow morning. For rookie camp for the rest of the week. Fly back on Monday. And then I'm here for a few days before I fly back out pretty much permanently. So just getting packed up, getting ready, going to get the playbook right when I land. And, you know, it's going to be a challenge. I know that the odds are always stacked against you as a free agent. But that's, you know, for me, I'm just determined to, you know, Philly fans, from what I've heard, is as long as you give 200%, they love you. And that's kind of been me throughout my whole career is I'm the smaller guy, but it's obvious that I will just give everything that I have. So I'm hoping that will at least give me a shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm rooting for you. Dub Nation's rooting for you. All of the Warriors fans. Good luck, man. That's going to be fun. And congratulations. And thanks for taking a few minutes.
Thanks, Jarom. Appreciate it.
Britton Covey on Dub Nation. Our thanks to him for joining us. And congratulations to Britton again. So excited for him. You were muted, Banksy. I can't wait to hear what you're saying.
All he wanted was somebody to give him a shot, and now he's got one in the biggest underdog city in America and fans that root for that kind of player. So, you know, if it's going to work for anybody, I mean, he could turn into the next Devin Hester and just destroy people on punt returns and be an absolute weapon. He has that potential. So all the best to Britton, and he's part of that Warriors family forever now.
100%, man. And a reminder, don't forget to renew your season tickets. That starts May 7th, coming up Saturday. So get your season tickets for next year. Okay, that'll do it for us. Like and share this episode of Dub Nation and follow the Utah Warriors on social media. We'll see you or talk to you Saturday at 8 Mountain, Rugby ATL and Utah Warriors. We've got the call on that one as well. Our thanks to Joe Mano and Britton Covey. Today's show is produced by Billy Rathule and Mason Benson. For Banksy, I'm Jarom Jordan. Go Warriors!